So last week I read Satan's Harvest. Just so you guys know, it's part of my 10 books in 10 week challenge. This is the first book out of the 10. This is my first video, by the way, on the channel. So the 10 books I want to be reading in these 10 weeks. First off, as I said, we've got Satan's Harvest, which is a story of the Warrens, not written by them, written by Michael Lasalandra, Mark Miranda, with the help of Maurice and Nancy Theriot. We'll talk about that book. Spoiler alert, I did not like it. Next book that I'm reading right now is Experimental Film by Gemma Files. Really cool book from at this point. I'm at around pages 100, I think, out of the 300 and so pages. So far, so good. Can't wait to review that book. It's way better than this one. Then, starting October 2nd, it's going to be The Fog by James Herbert. I picked up that book because I thought it was based on the John Carpenter movie, The Fog. As it turns out, I don't think it is. Then starting October 9th, yeah, sorry, I'm reading, like, here's my to-read list. I don't think you'll be able to see. Yeah, it might be, it's all white. After that, I'm going to be reading Burnt Offerings. Don't remember the author. Yeah, I'm just going to read all the names. Everything's going to be in the description, the author and everything. So, October 9th, Burnt Offerings. October 16th, Maynard's House. Then October 23rd, Legend of Sleepy Hollow. That's my favorite Halloween movie. So can't wait. I'm just going to read only this short story, not the whole book of sketches that Washington Irving has done. Irving, sorry, there's no H there. French guys always put H everywhere. Sorry about that. So it's just going to be that short story. I think it's 40 pages long, something like that. After that, October 30th, Amityville Horror. Then November 6th is going to be Turn of the Screw. I really liked what Mike Flanagan has done with the show. Hunting of Bly Manor. So can't wait to read the original material. November 13th is going to be Who Goes There? So the Thing movie. Favorite horror movie, period. Can't wait to see the original material to that. And then the last book is going to be The Search for Joseph Tully. So let's talk about that Satan's Harvest book and why I think it's bad. Yeah, it's supposed to be really scary, but I was never scared. The only thing that I found scary is that this guy could get away with it in the way he did, and how a lot of things could have been avoided, I think, if he got the proper help. But we'll get more into that and why I think this book is not that good. Firstly, why I think it's bad. Mainly me and the authors of the book. I said he, but yeah, there's like 4 different authors of the book, and one of them is a woman, Nancy. I don't know to what extent Maurice and Nancy are really involved in the writing of the book, but my guess is maybe a bit too much because a lot of things don't make sense. But let's go back to why I think it's bad. So I think the main reasons why is there's a clash of ideologies mainly. Firstly, you know, at the start, not at the start, I think mid-book or something like this, he's talking about the Salem's witch trial and how the devil was really involved in that, where it's not really. So, yeah, that's the first thing. It's misinformation. I think that's the whole point of that book, is misinformation in my mind. I'd like to know the real story, not just the point of view of the authors, like saying, it's the demon all along, something like this. So, also, just at the start, just during the introduction of the book, I'm just going to read like the last sentence of the introduction, the last sentence here. I'm not going to read that much. It's just that from the start, I knew that I wouldn't like that book. So just so you guys know, just from that sentence alone. Here goes. The story is a shocking and frightening one, but one that, in a time when Satanism and satanic cults are on the rise all over America, must be told. So they're writing as if, well, I think is Michael Lessandra who's doing the introduction. So he's writing as if the satanic panic is real, that an infinite amount of babies were really sacrificed in the name of Satan, which, yeah, it's not that real. There are real people that suffered from the satanic panic. I'm not saying anything otherwise. But one thing for sure is that little babies. Oh yeah, it's a bird knocking on the door. Oh yeah, call it up. Sorry about that. I've got a wooden door outside and a woodpecker is having fun with it. I might need to change that door. Where was I? Yeah, so he's writing as if a lot of babies were killed for satanic rituals. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there because it's not real. It's fantasies, and that's my main problem with the entirety of the book. It's that it's fantasies and real people suffered, and I think that it's making an injustice, a disservice to them for talking fantasies where real people suffered. I'm gonna have the same thing with the Amityville horror, just so you guys know, because once again, real people suffered. Some people tried to cash in on that, and at least it was really horrific. This book was not. So why I don't believe in the story? Mainly there's a lot of contradiction happening. I've got 3 examples of that. So at the start, when we go into Maurice's childhood, we're like told that he was only seeing this one girl named Joliette. Yeah, so this was supposed to be kind of his first girlfriend that never really dated because he's a victim. Like, his dad wouldn't let him have the truck, so instead of just walking to the cinema with the girl like any other guy would do, I don't have a car, I'm gonna walk with you, take the bus or whatever. He's not going with the girl, so being a victim, like, my dad doesn't want me to have the truck, so I cannot have this girl. And we'll see all along he's just playing a victim when I think he's not a victim. Like, he's trying to play it and portray himself as one, but hey. So he said that he was interested in only one girl. Then later on we find out that, yeah, it was at the same time or close to that, he was dating Christine, another woman called Christine. I'm not gonna say woman, a girl. She's like 16. No, she's not 16 when he's dating her. She's like maybe 12. Yeah, she's 12. She's 12. I mean, he's 18 years old and she's 12 and they're dating. But it's not tell like that. You have to calculate, do mathematics to understand that, because they don't say her age like till later when he sees her again. So after that, he moves out of town. He comes back to town like years later, and he goes back to flirting out with that girl. So he's back, he's 23, she's 16, so Kristen is 16. They're quote-unquote dating. He's staying at their house, but they're not really dating. But he said that they were dating before, but now that... because it turns out that her grandfather is sexually abusing her. And yeah, so she goes to the police, and then the police ask Maurice, like, were you in on it? Were you having sex with her like the old man? I know you are. Kind of like that, you know. Yeah, you are, my you guilty boy, or whatever. Kind of, yeah, that whole section's a bit weird. And he's like, no, she's way too young. I'm not having sex with the girl. And then some months later, he married her, and within a year, they have their first children. So I'm guessing, okay, he might be like 24 and she's 17 or whatever. It's still, she's a child. It's so weird. And yeah, I don't know. That just there didn't stand up with me. I didn't like that at all. Part of that story. So yeah, they split up afterwards. He has another wife with her. She can't have children, so they don't have any children together. And then he meets Nancy. But with Christine, he has 3 children, I think, 3 or 4. Don't remember. It's not that important. And then he comes with Nancy. So I just went really fast with that. We're going to come back a bit later. I just want to point out all the things why I think that this story don't add up. So a lot of contradictions there. Some weird things going on. Him dating a really young girl. And the other thing that I really disliked in the book is that they never question their belief. Like, it's always the demons doing that. It's not Maurice who's kind of a dick. No, it's always the demon. Maurice is a nice guy, you know, he's Frenchy, a cool guy. He's too cool to be doing all these crazy shit that we're putting on him. But is he? Is he a nice guy? We'll see, like, how the story ends and how, in my opinion, it could be avoided. So we'll see that a bit later. But yeah, they never question that. There's only one guy who questions, like, this is not the devil's doing. Well, there's 2, but one of them is they're just 1 page in the book, and he's just pushed aside because he doesn't believe like them. So we'll come back to that guy. But the police officer because there's a police officer who don't think Maurice is possessed. He tries to put him behind bars, and I applaud the guy. I mean, he really did try, but he failed, unfortunately, because of all the publicity that the story got, because Ed and Lorraine got in the way, because of a lot of things. So he failed, unfortunately, but that guy never believes that it's a demon until the very end, where the writers are like, maybe he thought it was the devil all along because he couldn't put that guy behind bars. It's just, did he really? I mean, we don't know. It's their word against the police officer. So yeah, the other guy that got pushed aside, as I said, in just 1 page, is that at one time the church is like, you want us to believe that this man is being possessed by the devil. Maurice, by the way, is the guy that supposedly is being possessed by the devil. But we'll need to do a psychiatric evaluation if it's just not a mental illness. I think it is. Yeah, so they get with the psychiatrist. Then Ed gets really angry at the psychiatrist because the psychiatrist doesn't believe in God. And he's like, yeah, what I believe or not is irrelevant to the case. I'm here to just do an evaluation of the guy, see if, he's mentally ill. That's it. That's what he's being paid for. And Ed just jumps shit right there and then. He's like, no, he leaves in a burst, and then Maurice follows him. And then in the parking lot, something supernatural, or preternatural, as he always says in the book, super preternatural happens. Like, Maurice, a cross appears in his back by itself. So only the Warrens see that, and Maurice. So and they try to convince the psychiatric that this is kind of the demon doing that, showing the cross in Maurice's back. But the psychiatrist is like, no, you cut it yourself, or maybe it was there before even he wasn't here. A lot of things don't add up with that. So yeah, because a lot of times you'll see during the book, if you read the book, everything that happens only when Ed and Lorraine are there with their accomplice, until the end, where the police supposedly sees Maurice bleed, cry bleeding tears, cry blood. Yeah, cry blood. I'm gonna go with that. But we don't know. Is it real? It's the only time that the police sees that, so I'm guessing it's not. But then again, it's the devil trick to never show when not everyone's looking, so you're suspicious. You think he doesn't exist for real. That's the devil's trick. Let's go back and let's talk about the story. I just put out some highlights of what happens, and just so you get the big picture. So the big picture is Maurice's father, Philip, was a douchebag, was an aggressive guy, really violent, abusive, all of that. And the cycle continued with Maurice. End of story. That's pretty much the story, though. Yeah. So the book starts with Maurice and Nancy being together. Some weird fire starts around the farm. Some weird things are happening. And they all blame the demon. So, and there's a police officer Serbert, say like you want, and trying to see if the fires are being started by Maurice. That's what he thinks, actually, that Maurice started those fires. That's what I think also. I'm with the police on that one. So that lasts for about 20 pages or so, and then the flashback occurs where we see Maurice grow up in that toxic environment. His dad being a prick, nobody liking his dad, none of his brothers and sisters love the guy. His mother don't even like Philip, so you're like wondering, why did you marry him in the first place if you think that he's a goddamn asshole all the time? And nobody in the village like him, so you're like, alright, is he like a possible person? I feel like he's just a personification of the devil. Like, he's just beyond like, nobody's that ugly. Then something happens in the barn. We don't know what. While reading, it's never explained what happened in the barn. While doing some research on the Maurice Thériault affair, I found out that it might have been bestiality with a cow, so they're both having sex with an animal. I think that's what happens. Why just not put it in the book if that's what happened, what you're referring to, instead of leaving it just like that? Something happened in the barn and never explain it, always referring it to that event as the barn incident, I think. Oh yeah, very weird choices of what to leave out and what to keep in the book. I feel like everything that could potentially write Maurice as an abuser or a violent guy was being left out on purpose, just to fit with the narrative that they're trying to push here. Then after that backstory, we learn about all his girlfriends. So Joliette, as I said, then Christine, going away from the town, coming back, living with Christine and his grandfather and her grandfather, then had the whole affair that afterwards they married together. They have 3 children. Then he has another wife with whom he's gonna stay for some time. Then he find about Nancy and they live together. Afterward, they get married and live together. So now we're back with Maurice and Nancy, and we see a lot of things happening. Mainly crosses bleeding, and it's really bad how it's written. I would have. It's just like Maurice woke up and then the cross was bleeding. You're like, it's not scary. Tell me something like blood was spurting out of the crosses, pouring in his mouth, and he was screaming for help, but the blood keeps on pouring, or something like that. But it's just like blood smeared from the cross. You're like, oh, how scary. Other things, the fires happening around the house, like 3 or 4 fires. Also, yeah, Maurice is crying tears of blood, and he's being at 2 places at once. And every time he's possessed by the devil, he's kind of violent. He has violent outbreaks. He swears. And sometimes being possessed by the devil, he's just depressed or feeling down. Like a bipolar disorder or something like that. That's what I think it is. Just if they would have consulted the psychiatrist, maybe they would have found something like a mental illness or something. And I hate that when horror devilized mental illness, and I think that this book is exactly that. Exactly what I feel is wrong sometimes in horror is that it's pointed out as the devil, where it's an illness. Just you can't get treatment, you can't get better. And I think that if he got, that story would have ended better than it did. So I'm almost finished. So a lot of weird things are happening. So they seek help from Ed and Lauren. They got recommended by their priest, I think, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to forget the book. I want to do this review and then I'm going to forget that I've ever read that book, actually, because I really disliked the book. I think it's everything that's wrong with horror today. And yeah, I'm not going to reread it again. So yeah, Ed and Lauren arrive. They already know that it's the devil and they're trying to force that on everybody. They're just adding more fuel to the fire. It's not good. You're just helping the guy build his fantasy that the devil is doing that and not him, that he's being possessed. So then starts a long battle to get an exorcism. The church wants them to have a psychiatric evaluation of Maurice, which they kind of do, but not really, because they tell the psychiatrist to screw off, that he doesn't have the faith, that he doesn't believe in God and the devil, so he's irrelevant for them. So they just pushed him aside, and then they go behind the church's back and hire an expelled priest to do the exorcism. So you just see how they're constructing their narrative. They're filling Maurice with his fantasies, and they're having the exorcism, which helps Maurice. He's like, yeah, everything is good, and the end, supposedly. So we learn that afterwards they lose the farm because the police officer from the start that was there to see about the fires, see if Maurice was starting them or not, he found out that Maurice was sexually abusing his stepdaughter, so the daughter of Nancy from a previous marriage, that he's sexually abusing her, and he's telling that it's the devil. So Sebar is trying to have him arrested, put him behind bars. He fails because the press got involved. Ed and Lauren are there to get recognition, get money, so they're there to just push it forward to the press, say, hey, it's the devil. So trying to attack that, it's just too big for all the courts. So they just straight out abandon, and he's not able to have Maurice locked behind bars, which I don't think it's a good idea to put him behind bars, but I do think that he would very benefit for clear psychiatrical evaluation, which failed all the way through. So the book ends with Maurice and Nancy losing the farm, living together in a near village, in another farm together. That's how the book ends. So great, the book ends on a good note. It ends with them still being together, living somewhere else. But the reality is, I did some research afterwards. What happened after is that Nancy divorced Maurice because she was scared for her life. I mean, yeah, even if he was truly possessed by the devil, at one point you're like, yeah, I'm gonna save my life and just move out. So that's what she did. She moved out, got a restraining order on Maurice, and then one day Maurice comes back with a shotgun, tries to kill Nancy, missed, shot her in the arm. I don't know where in the arm's not really seen that part. Shot her in the arm before turning the shotgun on himself and killing himself. It was in the heart, it said, like that. So it's a tragic story that ended poorly, and in my mind could have been avoided if he got the proper help instead of being fed this fantasy of how it's the devil that's doing that, not him, and so on. And by the way, his father before him did exactly that. He killed Maurice's mother and killed himself afterwards. So it's the same story, it's the same cycle of abuse that went on with Maurice that happened with his father, and Maurice almost replicated the same thing. It's just sad. That's what I felt after reading that book. I wasn't scared or anything. I was more sad of how tragic the true story is, and sad that there was people out there that could have helped him, but instead of helping him, profited out of that with a book, with press. They got more and more people involved in their stories, when in fact it's just that. I think it was just a story, and if it was left alone, or maybe they got the help that they deserve, let the police do their job, I think that a lot of things might have go maybe for the better for them. I don't know, but I truly believe that it didn't help Maurice's case, like how they treated the whole thing. So yeah, that's my review. This is the first one. I'm gonna get better. I don't know if that helped you. If you want to read the book, I would suggest maybe reading it just to get your own opinion on that. Don't hate me, if I didn't like that book and you liked it. You're more than welcome to like the book. I tried to be, I'm trying to be as honest as possible why I didn't like the book. That might be just me, though. You could have liked it. It's your opinion. That was mine. So if you liked what you seen, hit the like button. Feel free to comment down below. Just tell me if you liked it or not, what you thought of that video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.